Next up, we have Vodafone, who's going to be speaking. Viktoria, can you see us? Or
yes,
can you see us? Can you hear us?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Perfect.
So please feel free to take over and introduce yourself and just about the project we did. I'll switch the slides and then we'll get to the questions at the end. So it's all on you.
Okay, hi guys, Viktoria Korabelnikova, and I am the head of the Internet of Things division with Vodafone Czech Republic. We have been collaborating with Spaceti for several years already. We have been using the smart building solution, and currently we're working on a new project with Spaceti, adding some extra modules. The project which is actually linked to what has been happening in the world during the past year. In March 2020, all of our employees were asked to work from home, and up until now, we have not yet returned to the office. It seems like the safety measures in Czech Republic are going to be easing up. So hopefully, very soon we will be going back to the office, but currently we allow only 25% of our workforce to be at the office at the same time. So basically, during the springtime, we as management started thinking about, how to transition employees back to the office, because for 1 year we have been all, functioning in a virtual mode. And I can tell you that for Vodafone Czech Republic, it was quite a challenge because people were used to be at the office pretty much every day. Working from home was possible, but somehow culture-wise, people were just used to be at the office, have physical face-to-face meetings, interact being present physically there. And then, when all of a sudden everyone was at home, it was for some people pretty frustrating. A lot of people complained that they were missing, the social contact and things like that. But unfortunately, there was no other choice, but to put up with this new, I would say, normal. But then after a year, what we saw was that people actually got quite adapted to this new way of working. And there were certain benefits of working from home. I know, guys, you have probably, the same situation when you can save a lot of time on the travel, on commuting, on not being stuck in the traffic, but rather spending this time, either with your loved ones or on some working tasks. Also, when you take care of, children or whoever you need to take care of, you have much more flexibility to do it when you're working from home rather than when you're at the office. So these were, I would say, the primary benefits. But also there were disadvantages. Like I mentioned, people were missing the social contact. So we were thinking, okay, how to combine or how to take the best from both of these working modes and, create something new. And that's how we came up with an idea of switching our office setup to a so-called collaboration center. So currently what the plan is, we're going to take one of the floors, we're going to redesign that floor and make a collaboration center out of that floor, so that people would be expected to go to the office a couple of days a week, maybe 3 days. We'll leave it up to them. And then the rest of the time they would be working from home, performing their routine tasks. For instance, I don't know, checking emails, preparing some presentations, whatever they would want to do. And then at the office, we expect that it would be more about, meeting your team, so team meetings, collaboration, discussing something important which you could not probably discuss in the online format, maybe brainstorming workshops, because those ones were the hardest to do online, because to be honest, to get the attention or brainstorming activity from the people who are in parallel trying, to do something else. We've all been there, we've all done that. It's pretty hard. So that's how we want, to use this approach to encourage this type of collaboration. And of course, with this redesign comes the technology, because it's quite a big change. We want to use the new modules of the smart building. Some of them we are already using, some of them are already installed and also will be installed on that floor particular. So I'm going to elaborate probably a little bit more on them. First of all, the working conditions. For Vodafone, and employee well-being is extremely important. So checking if we have the right temperature at the office, if the level of CO2 is not too high, is very important. And that's where, this solution is very helpful. The facility management is able to check the data to see if it all is within the required range. If it's not, then they would adjust the ventilation system or, the air conditioning system to make sure people do not get tired, because we all know that when the CO2 level is way too high, then, we start yawning and we're not as probably effective as we could have been. So that's one of the things. Then another thing that we will be using in this new setup would be the real-time office occupancy. So basically, we would install the artificial intelligence cameras that will be checking exactly the real-time occupancy. The analytics coming from that would be used then to analyze how efficiently the space is used, how it's utilized by people. For example, where people are gathering up. And based on that analytics, we would then decide, okay, if we see that there are crowds of people in a certain area, maybe it makes sense to break down that area even into smaller parts so that people have, their own private space, together in smaller groups. Or maybe we could redesign something based on that feedback. Another thing for the real-time occupancy would be the sensors that would be installed under the desks, so that we could check who exactly is physically present at the office. This is also linked to the current measures that we have, because I mentioned that we currently have only 25% people allowed at the office. Hopefully we will go back pretty much to the full capacity once the pandemic is over, but we also thought it would happen last summer when we thought that it was over, but then during the full time, it all came back, the craziness started over, and again, we got back, to the same situation. I hope it's not going to be the case this year, but in case it is, we want to have the technology to make sure we track how many people we have in real time at the office to also make the management decisions connected to that. And then reservation. Reservation is very important for us, because it makes the whole experience of visiting the office much more pleasant. So currently we're using the meeting rooms or the reservation system for the meeting rooms, but we also want to use it for the desks that would be on that new floor. So basically each desk would be equipped with a QR code. An employee would be expected to reserve a desk in advance, and then when they show up at the office, they would scan the QR code and confirm that they're there, physically present, they can claim the desk, they can occupy the desk. This is extremely important in order to avoid the so-called ghost reservations, because sometimes, people reserve things, then something changes, they forget to cancel the reservation, they don't show up at the office, and then the desk is occupied and another employee cannot take it. There is an overlap with the real-time occupancy technology here, because in case an employee forgets to reserve a desk, it doesn't mean that, they cannot find something available at the office. They can check being physically there using the QR code. If the desk is free, if it is free, then they can immediately take it. If it's not free, then they would see in the app that they cannot take this desk. We've been using this in our meeting rooms. It works like this. If the meeting organizer or the attendee does not confirm that the meeting started, then I think in 15 minutes, the reservation gets canceled and the meeting room becomes available for other people exactly for the same purpose. If someone forgets to cancel, then we don't want to kind of keep the room occupied if someone else might need it. Then smart lockers, a colleague of mine already mentioned that they're using it as well. So our idea is that it fits or it blends with this new flexible way of working, because we want to use it in a way that we would share things with other employees. To give an example, if I borrow a charger today from a colleague of mine, and they leave the office, I don't know when they're coming back, because we expect that people will be more flexible. They would not be coming back to the office every day. I don't know when I'm going to be back to the office and I need to return the charger. So basically, if I use the smart locker, I give the access via an app to my colleague. I put the locker there. Then when they show up at the office, they open it up, they get the charger, and then the locker is available to other people. It's all, again, about flexibility. And you guys mentioned parking. It's a nightmare here as well. If an employee reserves a desk, we don't want them to be frustrated, about coming to the office by car and then realizing that there's no parking spot. And then what do they do with the car? Because it's pretty problematic to find a free parking spot around the building. So in order to avoid this frustration, now that we will be slowly returning to the office, we would need that reservation system in place so that employees knew if there is a parking spot, or maybe they would use subway to go to the office, because we have a subway station in literally 20 meters from the office. So that's the whole idea of how we think about it. Once again, summarizing, a collaboration center that will be flexible, that will be pleasant. The technology, smart building technology, will provide a very smooth and pleasant experience for employees, so that they avoid frustration that they don't get the desk or the parking spot. And if this proves to be successful, because obviously we want to do the pilot first to make sure that we receive feedback or we change things before we do the full rollout to the whole building and other buildings that we own. And once we collect the feedback, if this is successful, then obviously we will then implement it to the whole building and other buildings that we have. That would be it from me.
Thank you so much, Viktoria. Really very concise summary and very, very interesting. And some of the things we already spoke about, but also some new stuff there as well. And again, it's been a pleasure to work with you and continue working with you. I have just a few questions here, and I know it's the top of the hour, so we'll try to finish things up sooner so that you guys can all head off to your next meetings and take a break. But just a few panel questions for you that were submitted. How transparent are you being with the data, especially about the indoor air quality, for example, to your employees, and how transparent should you be? Is this something that people want to know about and are concerned about? Does it prevent a challenge for you in terms of communication?
So far, this data has been used only by the facility management because, as I mentioned before, there are certain ranges, for instance, of the temperature or of the CO2 levels that are supposed to be within the norm. So they were checking if all of those measurements were in line. If not, then they were making the necessary adjustments. There were no requests from employees that they wanted to have this information. If they do, I'm sure we can make it available because, as I mentioned, Vodafone is being extremely sensitive about creating really good conditions, and employee well-being is extremely important. So if there is a request to provide this information, I wouldn't see any problem with making it available through an app, for example, so that everyone sees when they open an app, okay, how is it at the office? Yeah.
Awesome. And then just this really ties into the third floor where you want to make a collaboration center. You know, how will the layout, you know, if you have any idea, I don't know if you're super in the nitty gritty, but do you have any idea about the layout, especially some of the, maybe the types of furniture you'll be using as well? And, you know, how will that layout exactly look? This is going towards the third question and really ties into what Red Thread is doing with furniture and architecture. So do you have any idea about that, how it's going to be structured, or, you know, what kind of stuff you'll be implementing there?
Yeah, I'm just reading, maybe both of these questions are somehow linked, or there is an overlap. For starters, just to give you some information about the people side, I know that a lot of people already started questioning, like, why are we doing it? You know, I had my fixed desk, now I will not have the fixed desk, or, you know, they had a mobile desk that they were used to go into every day. So basically, it's all around, it's all about the communication. We as management communicate why we're doing it, what are the benefits, trying to explain that, you know, there are benefits in this model that the company and the employees would once again benefit from. So it's mostly about explaining and convincing the people to give it a shot, to try it, to feedback, and then see, you know, how we do, if something would need to change, or, you know, if they are happy. And the layout, definitely there will be changes because there will be no fixed desks as such. We still have some, most of them are mobile, but we still have the fixed desks as well. So that will not be the case on that floor. It's going to be only a collaborative area, like I said, for team meetings, for workshops, for activities that require like a lot of people and participate in those activities, not just sit, you know, and you know, work from the desk, but discuss something as a team. And here I think it's important to have the technology not only, you know, for managing the employee experience, but also for maybe even saving the cost in terms of changing the building layout, because if we don't expect, you know, our employees to be fully at the office every day, basically, we don't need the setup that we had before. So now we have a lot of like, you know, desks or maybe furniture that were put there because the expectation was that, you know, the office would be always at full capacity. Now that we expect people to partially work from home, we would need to sort of change it in a way that the space is used more efficiently, and that could bring cost saving because there will be no need anymore to arrange everything for 100% of the people, if you know what I mean.
Yep, that makes perfect sense. Maybe what I would love to do is, Jay, do you have any questions from the chat?
You know what? The only question I did have was regarding air quality analytics, and I think we answered that. Oh, wait. One just came in. Stand by. Here we go. Victoria, were there any obstacles integrating the Spaceti smart technology systems, indoor air quality and occupancy, with your internal IT infrastructure security platforms? That's a great question.
That would be a very technical question for me, but I can tell you probably I can answer it in a very general way. We have a very strict IT security. So it's pretty challenging to come up with any change like that. It requires a lot of approvals, and it's not a very short-term process. But to be honest with you, the top management, including our CEO, has a very innovative mindset. So, and because I am the head of IoT, basically I am one of the promoters of anything that has a word smart. So basically, if there is a business case or if there is a use case that proves that it makes sense to do it, even through all the challenges that we might have, we will make it happen. That's the best answer probably I could provide you.
And I think just to quickly comment on the Spaceti side, the solutions that we did install in Vodafone were mostly wireless, and you use also the Vodafone the networks, the GSM networks, to connect into the transfer the data to the internet. So we didn't need to really interface with the local infrastructure too much, and I think that helped a lot as well. And I think that's one of the really important things as we start to implement smarter technologies for buildings, is that we just try to make things as light touch as possible. So that's also something that I can comment help from the Spaceti side. Any other questions, Jay, for Victoria before we go to the closing part?
No, sir. No.
Great. I think first of all, thank you, Victoria, again for the great presentation. Really appreciate you joining us, and looking forward to continue working with you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think that's pretty much we're at the end, everyone. If anyone has any final questions, please feel free to ask now. You can unmute yourself and ask, or type it in the chat, or raise your hand on the Teams platform, or you can also reach out to us after the call.
Akash, there is one question I've been saving for you.
Okay.
It's regarding facility issue reporting.
Yeah.
So the question is, does facility issue reporting that function does it notify employees of items received and being worked on?
Yeah, so that the emails are specifically for Deloitte. They get email notifications about the status of the issue that they reported, and we also have a web-based ticketing system that helps to manage that. So it's really up to you how you want your folks to be notified about what is the status of the issue they reported. If that makes sense. If that answers the question. I don't know if that was the question.
Yeah, I think it answered it. Yeah.
Great. Any other final questions? Anyone? Please feel free to speak up, or we can end a little bit early. We will send you the recording after the call. And any questions or comments you may have afterwards, please feel free to reach out to myself or Jay, and we'll be very happy to coordinate that.